Today, we're going to talk about the worst possible thing you can do when you wake up and the simple shift that can reprogram your entire day before you even get out of bed.
Life is beautiful.
So I was watching this video of Tony Robbins on Instagram, and he's telling the story of this study that they did at Yale, where basically they hired these actors to go out into the street and they would go up to random people and then they'd say, "Listen, can you hold this cup of coffee for me for 1 second?" And then the person would say yes. The person who gave them the cup of coffee would look at their phone for a second, grab the coffee back, and then walk away. Then 10 minutes later, they had another person come to that person who just held the coffee, and they had this little clipboard, and they said, "Listen, this is not a scam. I'll give you $20 if you give me just 2 minutes of your time to let me read you this fictional story and then ask you a couple questions." So the people said, "All right, sure." The guy reads this story to them, and now here's the crazy part. Half of the people were given iced coffee, and half of the people were given warm coffee. Out of the people who were given warm coffee, 80% of them said that the main character in that fictional story they were told 10 minutes later was warm and genuine.
Mm.
Out of the people who got the iced coffee, 80% of them said that the main character was cold and mean.
That's crazy.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Why do you think that happened?
He says basically Tony Robbins was making this point that the only difference was 15 minutes earlier, someone handed them a warm cup or a cold cup, and that we think we control our thoughts, but really we're constantly being conditioned to make decisions without us even realizing it. So every little piece of information that our brain picks up is conditioning it, and he calls it priming it to think a certain way and do things a certain way. So just the temperature of that coffee 10
Wow.
minutes earlier completely changed that person's perspective on a main character in the same exact story.
Wow. Do you know the brain science behind this hot and cold stuff?
No.
So, brain imaging shows that hot and cold stimuli activate the insular cortex, the same brain region involved in trust and cooperation. The researchers said physical warmth doesn't just change how we see others, it changes how we behave. So, there's the part of our brain
Yeah. So
is the
temperature
same.
affects the trust thing.
Yes.
Wow. That's really interesting. I want to focus on this concept of priming, what Tony Robbins calls priming. So priming is basically this: whatever your brain touches first colors everything that comes after it. So the best analogy for this is when you put on a pair of sunglasses and they have that tint. Let's say you put on like the yellow tinted sunglasses. You wear them for a little bit, then you take them off, and everything you see is still like has this yellow tint on it, right? That's basically priming. Whatever you have on, even after you take them off, you're still seeing the world through a short period of time through that lens that you
Yeah.
just had on. Right. So that is priming explained very big. I
Yeah.
thought you would like that analogy.
I like that. That was cool. It reminds me
You don't
of.
seem too impressed by
It's
that.
all right.
What are you talking about, brother? I thought that was so good.
No, it's good. It reminds me of the.
You're just waiting for your turn to speak.
No, I'm not.
You're an ass.
Yeah, okay. It reminds me of the book Persuasion. You remember that book by Cialdini?
Yep.
So he wrote the book Influence, and then his second book was a book called Persuasion, and it's literally all about this concept of priming. And he tells some really, really good stories in that book. One is about an online furniture store. Do you remember that story?
And do not.
So basically, the homepage of the website, half the people they showed a web page that had fluffy clouds behind it, and half the people they showed a web page that had pennies behind it. And the people who saw fluffy clouds were willing to pay more money to prioritize comfort in their mattress. The people who saw pennies were willing to get a crappier mattress to save money. So it was once again showing this priming that without us even realizing it.
Yeah, so one was wearing penny sunglasses and the other was wearing clouds.
Sure.
So I'm just going to keep stacking these studies because I find them fascinating. The same guy who did the Yale study with the coffee cups,
Yeah.
this one is crazy. So he ran another one where he gave people word puzzles where they had to unscramble words. But the words, without people realizing, were words like wrinkle, gray, bingo, Florida, So basically, you finding the theme here?
Old people.
Yeah, they all had to do with old people. So then after the puzzle, they timed how long people took to walk down the hallway, and the people who unscrambled the quote unquote old words walked significantly slower than the people who didn't.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
All right. So the moral of this episode is basically our environment is influencing us more than we think.
Yeah, and I actually think the first 10 minutes of your day, like
Yeah.
you open your eyes and those first 10 minutes are like your priming window,
Yep.
right? Whatever you put in those first 10 minutes is priming your brain for the entire rest of your day.
And the biggest problem or negative habit that I've done myself and I see so many people do is look at their phone first thing in the morning and open up social media, Instagram, and just get flooded with notifications and news that's happening in the world. And it's literally the equivalent of giving a drunk driver the keys to your brain and like him just smashing that car
That's a
of your
good one.
brain into a brick wall.
I have a solution for that.
What's that?
So you know how I talked about that little device called the brick,
Yeah.
where basically you have to like scan this device in order to open your social media apps.
Yeah.
So they just came out with an update, and this is not an advertisement. We are not affiliated with this product at all, but it's a real solution to this problem that's been working for me. You can now schedule it to automatically go off and on your phone without having the physical device there. So now every night at 5 p.m., all my social media automatically shuts off and it doesn't reopen until 9 a.m., at which point it reopens automatically.
Wow.
So there's no more scanning for me. It's just
Interesting.
when I wake up, I literally even if I open my phone, which I'm gonna do. I realize it's
Yeah.
impossible not for me to check my phone when I wake up. It's just a habit that's so deeply ingrained that to fight it would be silly. So rather than fight it, I worked with myself and I just basically completely annihilated the fact that I can open social media.
That's cool. Well, I think that's a very eloquent solution. It's there's a lot of friction to everyone listening doing that, right? Because they might not have a brick. My simple solution is just putting your phone on airplane mode before you go to bed. Because what that does is when you have that habit of checking your phone, there is no notifications that came through because they weren't able. You can. I'm just saying, it's a simple solution. It's not. It's not going to solve
It's
everything.
not effective.
There's two. There's one which is the airplane mode. The second one is just keep your phone out of the bedroom.
That's impossible because then how are you going to hear your alarm?
Buy an alarm clock.
Who's going to buy an alarm clock? You said it's simple. It is getting more and more complicated.
All right. So the simple solution is the airplane mode.
Set up the brick. It's
All
way
right.
more effective.
All right.
And also, if you do end up checking your email like an absolute nut job, the call to action for today is to sign up for our newsletter, One Good Quote, because at least you can prime your brain just a little bit when you do check that email with one really good quote to start your day with the right headspace. So that is the call to action for today, is to prime your brain by signing up for our newsletter. How do you like that?
I like it. Shameless plug there, Michael.
I thought it fit perfectly for this episode.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. We love you.
Peace.